So I'm taking a look at the Redragon K551. This is the Vara. It's very similar to the Kala with some minor differences. As far as I can tell, these switches are actually soldered in, so you don't really remove these that easily from this one. But besides that, we'll talk about a few things. I do want to go over a couple things with this keyboard. Now, some of the functions I might show you in this video, I realize that other people have maybe different versions of firmware on the keyboard where different function shortcuts do different things. This is odd to me, but it's not unheard of, I guess. As a product progresses with time, sometimes different versions are released on it than it's sold, so you'll have different function keys and different function combinations that do different things. For instance, my ability to control the profiles is function and squiggly line, whatever that's called, and it lights up and it'll start flashing, and I'm able to go through and control the profiles on it, or I'm supposed to be able to. Now on my keyboard, I think that I've got some sort of botched firmware because I'm able to get to that, but I can't change the color assignment of any of the profile keys, but you're supposed to be able to. Now when I tried to research this, that's where I noticed that other people had different function and or function and a different number or F key, and they were able to go through and change their color lightings the same way that I should have been able to with this. I did check to see if there was a driver download or anything I could do for it, but as far as the US site goes for the Vara RGB keyboard, it's just download manual, so there's no GUI interface that's necessary or implemented for the Vara K551 keyboard. Now it is a $45 keyboard, so some of this is forgivable, but for the most part, we'll go over a couple little bits of what I know about it. I'll try to show you what I can about it, and I'm going to admit that I totally skipped over 3 of the lighting functions in this, so I'll try to squeeze them in there as tastefully as possible. You might notice where I did that. Now, as far as reading off all of the 18 different cycle functions they have, they're really just names. I'll just try to show them to you in this video, and I'll also do a sound test in here so you can hear what these Otemu Blue switches sound like. You do get an instruction booklet with it. You also get a keycap puller and the keyboard itself. So this is the Redragon K551. It is a pretty slick looking 104 key, full 10 key layout keyboard. I like this keyboard a lot. I'm going to go ahead and say that, especially for the price. Those of you on a budget are probably going to enjoy the fact that something like this exists in the RGB loosely used term variant.
Redragon rarely disappoints me, and this keyboard might be the closest they've ever come to actually disappointing me, but it has nothing to do with the construction quality. I think that this keyboard, especially for the price, is one of the most durable feeling, most well-constructed, put-together keyboards, 104 key layout keyboards that I've ever experienced, and that's something that, I hope says a lot because I do like quality in my keyboards over anything else. So the keycaps are technically floating keycaps, but they sit in a recessed bezel, which is kind of neat, and the whole bezel feel and construction is just really good. It's something that I would recommend to people that, just purely, even if there was no RGB lighting or LED lighting in this, that the construction quality of the keyboard it's heavy, it's durable, it's in reinforced plastic shell, it's got a aluminum backplate, and it just looks and feels really good, really quality. And I'll go over some more of that in a little bit here when we talk about other things like how it doesn't slide across the desk as easily as a lot of the keyboards I've tried recently. So Redragon gets big kudos, and you're on point for that as far as your construction quality goes, as always. Now the keyboard uses Otemu Blue switches, which is something that's pretty common in keyboards in this range, and we'll take a sound test and listen to those in just a minute, as I finally decided to use somebody that's not a professional chicken pecker like myself. Otemu Blue switches are something we see in a lot of these more budget end keyboards. They are cross-stem compatible switch caps so that you can replace them with other things, because I'm also going to cover something about the font that Redragon is insistent about using. But first, let's take a listen real quick like I promised. So something worth mentioning about these keycaps here is they use this overly accentuated gamer font, which we've seen on a trending kind of style with a lot of the budget keyboards. I'm not necessarily a fan of that. And again, just kind of talking about how well it holds the desk, the rubber feet on the bottom and on the riser stands make it so it just doesn't slide so easily. There's 2 small ones in the front, surprisingly small, grip very well. In the back, the riser stands are coated and covered with a nice rubber material that also helps prevent them from sliding around on the table, on the desk, whatever you have it set on. No need for an extra mouse mat to help hold it in place. Really, really good. I like that a lot. It does have a gold-plated USB to help people feel better about polling, because gold-plated conductivity is supposed to be better, but the downside to this is you don't get that braided cable at this price point. It is a 6-foot USB cable that's affixed to the back of the keyboard, non-detachable, non-removable, like we've seen in other ones. The lighting features on the keyboard are great. I think that it's very good, very well done. Everything is even across the board. They didn't try to make the caps more than they could be. The LED flickering that you might see in this video, just as a side note, was because of the camera's shutter recording speed. You won't see that in person. I apologize if it looks bad. There are 4 levels of brightness. I guess if you count off, that would make 5. So you get these really decent ranges of brightness, and you also get 5 levels of speed. So if you wanted to slow it down, usually the slowest level on other keyboards would be like a pause. So if you wanted to pause the lights into place, but that's not the case on this keyboard. It just goes from slowest to slow to a medium to a fast to the fastest. And I think that, you know, that's a pretty decent range. It's all very smooth in all the transitional effects. It doesn't look choppy or underwhelmingly disappointing. So that's something that's worth mentioning too. The lighting effects just look really good. Now I'll take a moment here and I'm going to go through a couple of these lighting features. I did miss doing the third to the top there, which I believe is the end button, and I apologize. I'll try to fit those in maybe at the end of the video and show you. And while I will mention, I could tell you what all of these lighting features are called. They're in the booklet and every keyboard calls them something different. To me, it's really a matter of just finding something that you like that's interesting to you. I imagine most people that are going to sit down with the keyboard will go over that. I also do want to cover a little bit about the static lighting, which I'll talk about at the end, and a reason that I feel that this keyboard is maybe just lacking something of a firmware update fix. There's just maybe a problem with my variant because I couldn't even show the profile color coding. That's something that I've always been able to do in Redragon keyboards that I couldn't do here, but I'll cover that in just a moment as you see the static lighting part come up in just a moment. So static lighting default starts on pink, and I was like, cool, all right, that's neat. We can see what other static lighting features we have with this. Here's the problem though, I only had a handful of colors between green, blue, pink, yellow, and then we're back to green. So I'm missing things like red, which I found very odd, and it just kind of screamed at me, there's something kind of going on with this keyboard that hopefully you won't have that issue with.
The Kala, the Indra, the Hera, they've all been great keyboards, and the Hera of course is 7 or 6 color keyboard. When it comes to their RGB keyboards, you kind of hope for something a little more in the realm of what you were expecting, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense. So I feel like I'm definitely missing some features here, especially including the ability to set profiles on this, which I didn't show because there's really nothing to show other than I couldn't get it to cooperate. But even with these shortcomings on this specific one, which I'm pretty sure are probably just limited to the one that I have, I would say that the keyboard is still worth it for 45 bucks. You still have a ton of features on there, and if you're interested in something that looks good and just functions nice, I would say it's definitely pretty good. So I'll definitely reach out to Redragon too and say, hey, look, this is my problem. Check out this video. See these problems I have. Do you have something I can do to change this, fix this, make it better? And I'll hope to hear back from them. So anyways, I know I kind of said my negative there, but I do like the keyboard, and I think that for 45 bucks, it's definitely a worth it keyboard. Be sure and go check it out if you're interested in it. Just here's to hoping that you don't encounter maybe some of the issues I've had, and I'm going to continue to try to see if there's a way to resolve it. And once I figure that out, if there is like a firmware update or something I can do, I'll definitely post down below how I did it, what I did, and maybe even make a video about that in case other people with Redragon products have experienced this in the past. A lot of the instruction booklet is pretty generic, and a lot of it just covers things like a mouse. Like when you open it up and it says, you know, for the mouse do this, and I'm thinking, well, it's not a mouse, it's a keyboard. So it's just a generic instruction booklet that has generic programmability codes in it that tell you kind of what they should do in general. Anyways, guys, that's pretty much all I have for the Redragon K551 Vara. If you're interested in it, I'll put a link to it down below. You guys have a great day, night, whatever it is, and I'll see you in the next video that I do.